Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. The playoffs raging on. We've got a lot to break down there. We've got a lot of offseason stuff to talk about as well. Some plans in the works for the Hawks, James Harden's next contract, Zion's next contract. A lot to dive into today. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, on Instagram at Trevor Lane NBA, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA on the Twitter machine. Keith, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I was feeling a little under the weather yesterday, so we're back though. We're back and ready to go. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. So where are we going to
Well, we
start?
need to start with not only are we back, but we're back twice today because
Yeah, we are.
tonight we're going to be over on playback for Mavs versus Suns. We're going to be doing the play-by-play for the Mavs Suns game 2 tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. So come join us. Use the link in the description below. Get in early. There is a cap on the room. Use the link in that description and come join us. You can watch the game directly with us. You don't have to watch it on your TV and then try to listen to us. No, you can watch the game with our stream and chat with Keith and I during the game. It's a lot of fun, so I encourage you guys to stop by. Again, use that link in the description.
And we talk about all things, not just the game. We'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about anything NBA. I think we went on a couple Marvel tangents
That may
the
have
other
happened.
day, so that'll probably happen again. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. Plus, this game's late, so there's a good chance you may see me fall asleep live on air. This is getting late for me. I tend to sometimes if these games aren't interesting, I bail out of them and record them and then watch them in the morning. So but I'll do my best to hang in there. I'll pick up a coffee or something on the way home.
Well, I appreciate that. I picked the later games. I thought, okay, my daughter will be in bed. Less chance that my wife will want to kill me if I do this that night. But
Yeah.
then I got to
Yep.
think about it. I'm like, oh, this is really, really late.
Yeah.
So thank
It's
you,
all
Keith.
good. Yeah, we'll make it work.
All right, let's dive into the news that we've got for today. Well, I guess actually let's start with the playoffs. Let's start there. Your Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
Let's might as well start with it. Bounce back in a big way against the Bucks. I still think this is just kind of my outsider sense. I don't think the Celtics are as bad as they looked in game 1. I don't think they're going to stay as red hot as they were in game 2. I think that they'll probably settle somewhere in the middle-ish. And that's going to make for a really exciting series because I think that's going to be a very evenly matched thing. But for the Celtics, that was a big, big win in game 2, and it was a must win, as you said before the game.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go down 2-0 going on the road. It's just, you're not going to win this series. Even if you force it to go a little longer than you thought, it's just going to be tough. So I kind of said to some folks earlier today, I feel like both teams feel have accomplished something here as this shifts to Milwaukee 3 days from now on Saturday
So
because
weird.
there's 3 days off. Yeah, there's a concert in Milwaukee, I think, Thursday and Friday night that was already scheduled, so they can't.
What concert
They're
is it?
they're pushing the game back. I think it's something Hogfest or Pigfest or something, but it's
Really?
Godsmack and somebody else. So
Oh,
I don't. Yeah, I
that's
don't know.
interesting.
No, not my scene music wise. I have pretty eclectic taste in music that has not advanced much past about 2002. So anyway, the Bucks split, right? That's always your goal
Hmm.
when you are the team coming in on the road in the first part of a series. And then the second part is the Celtics bounce back and look much better. And I think they cleaned up a lot of the things that were problems in game 1. They didn't turn it over as much. They were able to control Milwaukee in transition, which I think was really important. And then, of course, they made a million shots. Now, they actually didn't shoot that poorly in game 1 from 3. They took a lot of threes, but 36% is not bad as a team. And then they finished a little bit more at the rim. They took some mid-rangers, which is just the threat of those helps. But yeah, I think this is going to be a long, interesting series. But I think a lot of the things Boston is doing are pretty sustainable. And you saw the Bucks, Giannis and Drew Holiday both looked exhausted at the end of game 2. And I think that's because they're having to carry such a huge load on both ends of the floor, especially without Chris Middleton there. So I think that's one of the things, although the Celtics aren't like super deep, I think the fact that they're more balanced offensively is really helping them out.
I thought it was interesting defensively that the Celtics weren't doubling Giannis on his drives most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, which then shut down the kick out to outside shooters. You did see a lot of
Yep.
Pat Connaughton dunking down into the dunkers spot in order to try to get free. We saw the Bucks kind of counter with that a little bit, but I thought it was interesting because I think you're right. By the end of the game, Giannis spent pretty much the entire second half playing one-on-one, Just, I'm going
Yep.
to the basket. And by the end of the game, he was pretty exhausted from having to be the guy to attack each and every possession, which on the surface you think, oh my gosh, it's Giannis. What are you doing defending him one on one? He's going to torch you. He got his points, but you stopped a lot of other guys from getting there. So I thought that was an interesting decision by Ime Udoka and the Celtics.
Yeah, there was definitely a change because in game one they doubled very
Yes,
aggressively. Giannis had, I think it was 12 assists, but it was a high number, mostly just kicking out. Now he had 7 assists in this game, and he's still going to get
sure.
assists because he has the ball so much and he is such an improved passer. But yeah, they held him to 11 to 27 shooting, mostly Al Horford and Grant Williams. When he got going a little bit was when they put Rob Williams on him. Rob doesn't have the strength nor kind of the knack
Hmm.
for defending him, where Horford and Grant are both guys who they don't rely overly much on athleticism, so they know when to pull their hands back, when to kind of pull the chair on Giannis, when to body him up, and those kind of things. So yeah, that's been huge for Boston, is that they've been able to really defend him one on one, because that's changed a lot of things in the second game. It just, the Bucks didn't open up. They only took 18
Hmm.
three-pointers, which is a very low amount, and they only made 3 of 18 as the Celtics were all over
Yeah,
those.
and again, I think we're going to see. I would imagine the Bucks shoot a little bit better in Game 3. The Celtics probably shoot a little bit
Yeah.
worse, just because that's what regression to the mean is.
Hmm.
And I think we're going to be in for a very close Game 3 in this one. I mean, we've seen not complete blowouts, but two games where the victor was pretty clear.
Hmm.
I think we're going to get a close Game 3, which is going to be exciting.
Yep.
Marcus Smart back for Game 3. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds like he's going to do everything he can to play. I think this 3 days off helps him. It also helps Jaylen Brown. He was
Mhm.
dealing with the hamstring,
Yeah,
tightened
scary.
up on him. Nothing that they're overly concerned about, but just, it's tightened up on him at points. And, he didn't look great down the stretch of that game. Heavy minutes for him. Ime Udoka, up until it got into garbage time, he only played 7 guys. So Smart went out. And that was it. Did not replace him in the rotation. Just gave more minutes to Derek White, to Peyton Pritchard, to Grant Williams. All those guys played more minutes. So basically, their main 7 guys, everybody played between 24 minutes. So Tatum, 43 minutes it's a lot, but it's not crazy amount. He's been playing up, just above 40 for a while now. So I think all around this is, they need Smart back. He'll do everything he can to get back, but that 3 days is going to be big for the Celtics to get guys back, and then big for the Bucks too, as far as just getting off their feet for a day or so and getting their guys back, because they're only playing 8 guys per night.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be interesting to see what that does to the series, having this time off. I mean, hey, you got to get a Godsmack concert in while you can. I understand it.
Supposedly.
Asking Alexandria will also be there. 3 days grace is what I've seen. Some bands from the past that I recognize, but in any event,
Now we know what you were doing while I was
oh yeah, I
talking.
was I was
Well
definitely looking
done.
this up
Well,
because Godsmack piqued my interest. I'm like, I remember that band. I need to get a look at this. So I checked it out,
love it.
but yeah, I am curious to see what happens here with injuries, with how fresh Giannis is, Drew Holiday. What does this mean for the series? This gives the Bucks. Typically, what you see is whoever loses the previous game, that's the team that makes adjustments for the next game. So, like,
Yep.
Milwaukee didn't make a ton of adjustments in game 2 because they won game 1. Now the Celtics made adjustments. Now it's up to the Bucks to make adjustments to those adjustments, and then on and on you go. So I'm curious to see what Milwaukee comes up with over the next 3 days here before they have to see the Celtics again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're gonna have to do some different
Hmm.
stuff for sure. I'm very curious to see how they approach it. I wonder if they, it you got to kind of go one way. It's either gonna be a lot
Yeah.
and really incorporate him in the offense, or none at all and just go that direction. I lean towards more. Brooke Lowe can really give Boston some troubles down inside. I'd like to see them maybe even straight post him
Yeah.
on occasion. But I just don't think they've really let him get. They haven't utilized him. They're letting him off the hook a little bit by cheating off Lopez and those kind of things. But yeah, I really think there's still a lot of stuff that can change in this series. And I think that's going to be, kind of fun to watch the next, week and a half here.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Let's jump over to the other series. Warriors and Grizzlies. Well, the other series that we saw last night. Warriors and Grizzlies. Fun game. Ja Morant goes nuclear. 47 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists for him. Steph Curry does his thing with 27, 9 and 8. This was a battle, back and forth, an emotional game. And I guess where we got to start really is what everybody's buzzing about, the Dillon Brooks foul. Unfortunately, Gary Payton II sounds like a fractured elbow, and now he's going to be out for some time. First of all, gutted for Gary Payton II. I mean, he carved out a role for himself. He's been a journeyman for so long. It feels like he finally found a home. He's heading into free agency, and then to suffer this injury now in the playoffs, absolutely terrible. So first and foremost, feel awful for him. From there, though, Dillon Brooks, Steve Kerr, not happy about it after the game. Even during the game, was yelling at the bench for the Grizzlies. Was not happy with Dillon Brooks. Believes it was a dirty play. Where do you stand on that situation?
That was a dirty play. I mean, Dillon Brooks made no attempt on the ball whatsoever on a player in the air. And I don't want to hear the people were, he was trying to block it. And he just, came to, no, he didn't. He came in there with the intention of, I'm going to wipe this guy out. And maybe this makes me a terrible person. If he did it to Draymond Green, I'd understand a heck of a lot more. I would be like, well, Draymond maybe brings it upon himself. But Gary Payton II had nothing to do with that play in game one where Draymond dropped Brandon Clark. And I just, I think it's just complete, crap that Dillon Brooks went in and wiped him out. And now let's think of this, right? Immediate ramifications are, well, Payton wasn't there to defend Ja Morant, who went crazy down the stretch of this game. But beyond that, he's a free agent this summer. This is a guy who has made relatively no money in the NBA, but was finally looking like he's in a place to cash in. But he's got a fractured left elbow, and he's left-handed. So this could be something where who knows what becomes of Gary Payton II's career now moving forward. And he's 29. So this isn't a guy who has, a ton of years to get back. We saw Andrew Bogut after he messed up his elbow. He was never the same again, as far as being an offensive player. So I hate stuff like this. It's not, there's no place for it. And I will say, I thought the Draymond play, and I think I said this on the show when we talked about it, I thought originally when I watched it live, I was like, oh, that seems excessive. When I saw the replays, I was like, no, that makes sense. Flagrant 2, get him out of there. Like, I totally got it. But initially, I felt like it was a little excessive. And, and it's just, I don't know. I hate this stuff because even if Dillon Brooks gets suspended for game 3, which is probably on the table, at least somewhat,
it has to be.
Based off past precedent. Yeah. But then he's back in game 4 and he just moves along while Gary Payton II's season is clearly over and who knows what will become of his career. It's just not cool. I mean, it's just, there's no place for that.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that it was pretty rough. People have been saying, well, I've seen a lot of this take on Twitter, but what about Draymond? Or they're upset that Steve Kerr was upset. People are angry that how dare he be upset when he's got Draymond on his team and all this kind of stuff. I don't think that changes that one play. I don't think you go, oh man, that was a terrible foul by Dillon Brooks. Wait, I forgot. The Warriors have Draymond Green, therefore it's okay. No, that's not Steve Kerr. He can be upset about that play. It's not like this, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, but you can still be upset about a dirty play, even if your team has been accused of some of those things in the past. And I think the NBA handles it. Look, Draymond Green got ejected, and some people have argued he shouldn't have been. Some people have said Draymond's foul was not as bad as Dillon Brooks. Well, Dillon Brooks is probably going to get suspended for another game, so the NBA is going to address that, the severity of the foul. It was a terrible play. It's a bad look. It's not something that you want to see in the NBA. I am always fearful of airborne players getting hit. By the letter of the law, if you go to a guy's head, it's a flagrant 2. And that's it.
Yep.
And that's what we saw in the Draymond play. And then the Dillon Brooks play, same thing. He went to the guy's head. Even if, let's say he was trying to block the shot, it doesn't matter. He smacked him across the head with his arm. people say, well, it's because the guy got hurt. I don't think the injury has anything to do with it. I do think there are plays, offensive fouls, for example. You're not going to draw an offensive foul if you're a defender and you don't fall down. If you stay vertical, you're not getting that call. There's times where what happens after the foul matters, right? That's true. But I don't think the injury to Gary Payton II here made the decision in this situation. I think it was very clearly a flagrant 2 and had nothing to do with what happened after in terms of his fall and actually getting hurt.
Yeah. You can't take guys out when they're in the air. It's just not going to end well. Someone's going to end up getting hurt, whether it's seriously hurt like Gary Payton II was, it's, briefly hurt, whatever it is. It's just not okay. Moving on to the game itself. Please. John Morant, incredible down the stretch. The Warriors had no answer for him. They don't have any. Klay Thompson's not that guy anymore. I think now we can clearly say, because it used to be, right, put Klay on the opposing point guard and let him contain the guy and let him do his thing. I don't think he can do that, right? I
part
just
of
don't
that
think
is
he
Ja
can.
is just an athletic freak, right? I mean, that's part of the equation there, too.
But, I mean, Klay, they used to put him on Kyrie. They'd say,
True.
Hey, go handle Kyrie. Like you got him. Chris Paul back in the day, he was their main guy on James Harden at the peak of his powers. But in this situation, like it is when we get into this part of it here now, you're absolutely right. Ja just, I don't know who's staying in front of him when he was kind of playing like he was last night, where he was on a mission and he was not going to let the Grizzlies go down 0-2 going to San Francisco. So yeah, I mean 47 points on 15 of 31 shooting, 12 of 13 on free throws, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. He had 3 steals. Steph played well, but he didn't play that well. Compared to Ja. So yeah, now we get a series. And again, right, we talked about in the Boston Milwaukee, what's the Warriors' adjustment? Do they just go back to Jordan Poole in the starting group now and say, all right, we'll run up the offense, and that's going to be the way we're going to go? Do they trim down their rotation a little bit? I thought Steve Kerr spent a lot of the night kind of searching for different stuff, and some of it worked, some of it didn't. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what his adjustments are going into game 3, because I think the Grizzlies have kind of, it sounds dumb to say it this way, but they found what works. It's throw it to Ja and get out of his way.
Yeah, I mean, that really is it. Ja went, I mean, we talked about Giannis and him going ISO one-on-one a lot because that's what the Celtics were giving him. We saw Ja pretty much do this. I mean, the fourth quarter, I mean, trust me, as somebody who was watching the betting lines on John Morant assists, which was set at 8.5, I was watching this. He didn't pass. He did not pass hardly at all in the fourth quarter. It was Ja going, putting his head down, going to the basket, play after play after play, and they couldn't stop him. Again, it's not like he was a chucker here. Fantastic efficiency, 15 of 31 shooting, 12 of 13 from the free throw line, 47 points. That's great. That's great. You will take that all day, every day. Even 5 of 12 from 3. That's just incredible volume, and the Grizzlies needed this. Look, I think Desmond Bane isn't right. I think there's something going on there. He's got dealing with some injury issues. I don't think he's right. 5 points, 6 boards out of Des Bane tells you that he's probably not quite 100%.
Yeah, he's good back thing, and I think you can see it.
That's pretty clear. And Ja picked up, and Ja just said, no, we're not losing this game. The last thing I want to mention on this, Jaren Jackson Jr., my goodness, man, fouled out again. Again, he fouled out of a game. 2 blocks, 7 boards, 3 of 14 shooting. They need him. They need him out there on the floor in this series. You've got to figure out a way to not get yourself in foul trouble like this, particularly picking up the silly ones. He's got to find a way to stay on the floor.
Yeah, so I'll give a thought on that, and then I have 2 other things. On the Jaren Jackson Jr. part, Jaren Jackson Jr. has the potential to be a destructive defensive force, but not when you're spending half of every game on the bench in foul trouble. And then you're fouling out of these games. It just doesn't work that way. You can't be a foul machine and be, a top tier defensive player. It just, you have to be out there. And that's going to cost them in these games when he's not on the floor, because they're not going to have somebody out there, especially, when they're not playing Steven Adams, and Clark was good, but he wasn't as good as Jaren Jackson Jr. So, and it's just the dumb fouls. It's the one when he's 70 feet from the basket for no reason. He's reaching in the backcourt and stuff like that. Those are the ones I can't take. Two other things. Super up-tempo game.
Yes.
Warriors took 95 shots. Grizzlies took 91. Neither team shot it very well. Golden State, we were talking about shooting balancing out. 7 for 38 from 3, 18%. Not going to see that again. That's not going to happen probably again in this series. And then the last thing on the Memphis side, Zaire Williams stepping up. The rookie had a really nice game, 14 points. Thought he did a good job as he was a big part of covering for Dillon Brooks getting ejected and then helping to cover for Jackson getting in the foul trouble and stuff, to the point where they went with him over Kyle Anderson for stretches of the game, and I thought it was the right call.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think when I look at this and I see that 3-point percentage that you mentioned from the Warriors, it makes me feel like our initial impression of this probably isn't wrong. I still think the Warriors take this series. But this was a heck of a performance by Ja Morant, no less.
Yep.
Despite LeBron James feeling like us dweebs in NBA media have somehow offended Ja Morant by giving him the Most Improved Player award. At least that was what I took.
Yeah, I didn't understand
from that tweet. But regardless, I don't want to derail us there.
Yeah, I have no comment on that. Yeah. I'm gonna move on. Hey, let's talk real quick. Heat Sixers.
Yes.
Because we didn't record yesterday, so let's talk about that one a little bit. Sixers fans are going to lose their mind if DeAndre Jordan is out there for another 17 minutes again.
Said he was going to. He was going to be out there. Now that could be gamesmanship, but yeah.
And I kind of understand the idea of like, where else do you want him to go? Paul Reed has been good, but he had 5 fouls in 13 minutes. He's just, he's not, I mean, I don't know how much more he can play without, fouling out there. And Millsap's clearly not the answer. He looks, completely cooked. And then, I would maybe go George Niang, some small ball, but he was 0 for 7 from the field, all 3-pointers. He struggled in that one as well. So I think that's, a little bit of a challenge there. And then I think, on the Miami side, they kind of got away with one. Kyle Lowry didn't play. He's not going to play in game 2. Mm-hmm. Starting to get a little nervous that this hamstring issue he's dealing with is a lot more serious than they've let on. But Jimmy Butler was awful in this game. I didn't think he played particularly well. They really didn't shoot it very well at all. I think, 9 for 36 from 3. Tyler Hero was really the only guy who could find the range.
6th man of the year, Tyler Hero.
Yeah, 6th man of the year, Tyler Hero. Well deserved.
Absolutely. He was our pick.
It was my pick. Yep. And then Duncan Robinson, no minutes, didn't play at all in this one. So I kind of wonder if that'll maybe be a change, especially if the shooting is continuing to struggle a little bit there. So yeah, I mean, just with that one, I don't know if you've got anything to add on.
Well, I think we can use this to springboard into one of our topics, which is that our news topics, which is the word that James Harden might take less than a max deal from the 76ers. If I'm the 76ers and I believe that James Harden simply is what we've seen lately from him, if this is just what you think he is moving forward, I definitely I'm insisting on paying him less than the max. Maybe he demands the max. I don't know, but he doesn't look like James Harden. Doesn't look like superstar level James Harden. And if maybe that's just where he's at. No. If that's the case, then I think it would be very wise of the 76ers to not give him that max money.
All right, so maybe you've seen this. Let's say he does insist on the 5-year max. In the 5th year, which would be in 26-27, he'd be 37 years old, which already that's like, holy crap. Like, that's almost
And he's not like LeBron.
How much money?
$1 million a year on his body.
No. Yeah. Do you know how much he'd make in that final season?
I don't. Off the top of my head, let me say 60.
61.4 million.
That's pretty close. Man.
Can you imagine, though?
Now, like, the new TV deal would be in by that point, so maybe the cap goes up, but it's still.
But even then,
that's still a lot of money.
And I'm not saying this as like a knock on Philly, but you'd have Joel Embiid on the books at $54 million that year, projected. So you're talking 115 million for two guys. Cap's not going up that much. It's going up, but it's not going up to 200 or 300 million or anything. So
There's teams right now with payrolls for their whole team that are less than that.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
mean, a
The
lot.
the Thunder's whole team salary this year was $90 million. Oh, I'm sorry, $80 million. So yeah.
Yikes. If
Yeah.
this is what James Harden is, and look, maybe he does take less than the max, and then off you go. How much less we don't know, but if this is what James like, this is the moment, right? Joel Embiid is out. Time for your other star to step up.
Yep.
If James Harden just
It's
continues
part
to
of why you
perform
got
what
him.
we've seen at the level that we've seen, Philly's done. I mean, like you said, Miami didn't play that well and won. What happens if Miami's playing well? Unless James Harden really gets going, this series is going to be short-lived. Or Joel Embiid comes
Yeah.
back, bursts through the
Yeah.
wall like, I don't know, Superman or
The Kool-Aid
Kool-Aid.
man.
I know, I thought of Kool-Aid Man instantly, but I'm like, well, I don't know if that
Oh
works. But in
yeah.
any event, and oh,
Tune in tonight on Playback for more of wonderful Kool-Aid man content.
I have completely lost my point at this stage now.
Uh,
Okay.
I didn't think I'd throw you that much.
If Joel, well, I'm picturing in my mind's eye Joel Embiid bursting through a wall, and then the Kool-Aid Man's voice coming out of him, and it's quite an image.
I love
It's
it.
a combination, but Joel Embiid, if he doesn't come back, which maybe he does, but if he doesn't come back and play at a very high level this year, I mean, we favored the Heat coming into this thing, then this series would be done.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Now I'm picturing. They should do that in Philly for Game 3 if he can play. Like put a wall and have him crash through and be like, "Oh yeah," like, it'd be so good.
Or do it.
They do the ring in the bell. Like have him crash through and ring the
Do
bell.
the
Like I'm all now.
the
Now I
the
want it.
Michael
All right.
Scott. The who is it? Who is
Yeah.
it?
Oh my god! And then he can't even
That's
punch
right.
through it.
That's right.
Uh, that's so good. All right, Suns,
Yeah.
Mavs catching up on this one. I don't have a ton on this except, Luka was
Mhm.
great. They didn't have a real answer for him for most of the night, but he needs more than Maxi
Yeah.
Kleba hitting some jump shots around him. Just they got to get something else going. I've seen some people say, well, it's really hard when he takes 30 shots. He had 5 turnovers. He also had 8 assists. So that's, 43 plays where he effectively ended the play one way or another. So that's tough. 43 plays out of, let's call it roughly, 100-ish
Mhm.
possessions in the game. So that's a little tricky right there. So I think that is, I get that part of it, but they just need somebody else to step forward. But the Suns, even though Lucas scored 45, they made him work for it. They threw a
Yeah.
host of different defenders at him. They kind of did what they did. Now I'm going to go back to something I said, months and months ago. You want to beat Phoenix, you better do it in the first 43 minutes because you are not doing it in the last 5 minutes. You're just not going to beat them. They're too good. Everybody knows exactly who they are. And Chris Paul, whether it's him dribbling into his elbow jumper, getting DeAndre Ayton something going towards the basket. He was a monster in this game, dominant. Or getting it to Devin Booker for jump shots. It's so big. And then Booker's unselfishness and willingness to give the ball up to guys and make that extra pass, that's huge too. So I mean, this Suns team is just so well put together. It's just going to be really, really hard to see Dallas beating them.
Yeah. I mean, look, Jalen Brunson had a bit of a dud game, and that's
Mm-hmm.
all that it's. I mean, the margin for error, it doesn't exist for the Mavs. If they
Yep.
want to win games, they need to get a top performance out of just about everybody
Yep.
out there in order to get the job done. And we'll talk a lot more about
Yep.
that when we do our
Tonight.
play-by-play tonight. Again, use that link in the description below over on Playback. Let's jump into some news. Let's start with this: Zion Williamson. Word is that the Pelicans would not like to give him a fully guaranteed 5-year contract. So does that mean 5 years? And then what we've been talking about, some protections in there for the Pelicans in the event of injury. That makes some sense. It'd be interesting to see what Zion ultimately signs. But I mean, when this news came out, I went, yeah, sounds about right. If I'm the Pelicans, that's what I would like
Yep.
to do as well.
Yeah, I wrote this for Spot Track. If anybody wants to go find it, it's the complicated case of Zion's contract extension, and the reason I called it that was because of the injury concerns for him. The good news is it now sounds like to as much as we can believe any player when they say this, he wants to be in New Orleans. So I think that's great, right? So we can kind of move off of that part of the storyline. But the challenge is the extension. So he's got one more year on his rookie deal, and then the extension would kick in. That's 30. It's projected at just over 32 million for that season. So that's 5 years, 185.7 million. If you could tell me right now today, Zion will play 65 to 70 games a year on that deal, done.
Sure.
Sign it, finished. I don't even care.
Yeah.
I don't even care that he misses 12 to 20 games per season. It does not matter to me. That's how good he was when he was fully healthy. Problem is, are you going to get 5 even half seasons out of this? That's what you don't know. And I think that's where the problem comes in. I expected to, at a minimum, look like the Michael Porter Jr. deal, where the final year has a bunch of non-guaranteed money in it, and it can be triggered by games played and performance and type things and awards and all that sort of stuff. But I think I would try to really push, if I was New Orleans, to make it a lot more like the Joel Embiid, where I could get out of it after a year or two with limited liability moving forward. It would mean fully waiving him. But that's kind of the trade-off, right? If I want out of it, then if I'm him, I want full freedom. If you're going to let me go and let me go somewhere else and figure it out from there. But this is the extension conversation of this rookie class to watch, just because since Embiid, we haven't seen anything like this.
Yeah, I agreed. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Again, the challenge is this: if Zion was on the free agent market, how many teams would give him fully guaranteed as many years as they can?
I mean, a lot,
right? I mean, so that's the challenge, right? If you're Zion and you're looking, and you're not a free agent, but if you're looking around and you're saying, well, you guys aren't willing to do this, but these 10 teams will, so you need to up the offer here. I want more guaranteed. That's the tough spot that the Pelicans could find themselves put in, because this isn't just does Zion deserve to have a partially non-guaranteed deal, or should there be stuff built into a contract in order to protect the Pelicans? Sure, ideally for the Pelicans that makes sense, but in order to get a talent like Zion, there's teams who would take that risk, and so that's the challenge: is you're competing with that factor in the marketplace.
No, absolutely. That is, great point, because that is what it becomes is, it's not just about what does the Pelicans want to pay him. It's about what else can he get. I still don't think he's a real threat to sign the qualifying offer as a free agent and just say, I'm going to play out. It would have to go really sideways for both parties involved for that to happen. My guess is they would trade him before that would ever happen, and they'd let it kind of be somebody else's issue to re-sign him before they'd let it get to there. But yeah, I mean, this is the one, once we get to July 1st and, extensions are allowed. Now, it's important to remember rookie scale extensions tend to happen a little later in the process because you have up until the start of the season. So no one should freak out if, we're on July 1st and there's no extension news for Zion Williamson, because the Pelicans are going to have other things to take care of first.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. So you say that, but people will. Right?
Oh, of course.
It's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it goes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've already had people ask, like, hey, why is this not done? And it's like, well, it's not even allowed yet. So like, let's breathe, on this one. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll get to July 1st and it's like, why do we not have a Zion deal yet? Yeah.
Quinn Snyder is having hip replacement surgery. I don't know what that's going to mean for where he lands as a head coach. Does that delay the process or anything like that? But he's having hip replacement surgery. The question is, will he want to replace the Jazz in his life as well? We'll see.
Well done. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Well, my thought was going to be, I mean, that puts him perfectly to go to the Lakers because they like a lot of old people with hip problems. So, yeah.
I walked into that.
Right?
Oh.
That's it. Yes, you did.
I fell into the trap.
Hey, let's stick there for a minute though.
Yeah.
Lakers coaching targets. Masai Ujiri, not happening with Nick Nurse. He politely but not so politely said,
Yeah.
keep dreaming on
This,
that one. The exact quote was, "No team has contacted me, and I see all the stuff you see. I dream like they dream. I want Messi. I want Ronaldo. I want Kobe Bryant, so they can keep dreaming. I dream too."
I
So
mean, and this is what we've been saying from day one, where, I mean, sure, the Lakers can
yeah,
have interest. Like, of course they should have interest, right? But
yeah,
that doesn't
oh yeah,
doesn't mean it's
yep,
something that's going to happen.
yeah. And I had people ask me about like, hey, well, the Clippers traded for Doc Rivers. That was something that the NBA was not a big fan of.
Oh.
They didn't really like the way that went
Hmm.
down because there's no there's no real like governance around coaches to being traded
Right.
but with that. So that was something that they kind of let be like, hey, we're gonna approve this as a one-time transaction, but this isn't really how we want to do business here. And if you remember, they also barred the Clippers then from acquiring Kevin Garnett or Paul Pierce or any of those other guys
Oh, that's right.
for a year after that. So that was very much a unique situation where the Celtics said, yeah, go, because he doesn't want to be here part of our kicking off our rebuild. And yeah, so that was a little bit of a messy situation, but just something to keep in mind. Coach trades are not really a thing, even though it did
It's
happen in the somewhat recent past.
sure. I mean, it's a thing. It has happened, but don't expect it to happen again. Okay.
Yeah,
The Spurs are going to play 4 home games per year outside of San Antonio, including
yep.
some in Mexico. So that's
Yeah, this is
interesting.
kind of an interesting story ish because the Spurs are basically saying like, hey, we want to build our market outside of just San Antonio. We want to play 4 games. They're talking about playing in Austin and
Hmm.
in other places in Texas, and then they want to play in Mexico City, in Monterrey, Mexico. It sounds like so they what it was their agreement with the county where they play. I think it's Bexar County. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but if it is, that's what it was that they could play 2. They upped it to 4, and they did get approval to do that. Now, there's no sense that the Spurs are looking to move or anything like that. They just committed to spending. I think they're building a $500 million practice and
Hmm.
performance facility in the area. So that's highly unlikely they'd be investing that kind of money there. And RC Buford basically said, hey, this is our chance to really kind of own this whole market here. So good on the Spurs for trying to make inroads elsewhere. We know the NBA as a whole is focused on trying to expand into Mexico and then into Latin America and eventually to South America. That's their kind of goal,
Hmm.
as they've already made pretty good inroads into China, Asia, and Africa.
Yeah, and I've seen from doing our shows, doing our live shows, all of that. I've seen how many people are coming in from international marketplaces. It's amazing. And
Yeah,
it's just from doing, our
yeah,
Lakers Nation live shows for the last like 5, 6 years, whatever it's been. I've even in that short time, I've seen a growth in that area where we're getting more and
mm-hmm.
more interest coming in from overseas. It's absolutely amazing the way the
Yep.
NBA is truly becoming a global game. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I gotta admit.
Yeah, I think it's great. I, I I I draw the line with the idea of teams playing in Europe, like having a
The
team in
travel.
England and France, just the travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be such a nightmare to. It's. I know the people who fire back at me like, well, it's not really a longer flight from Boston and New York to London than it is from Boston, New York to LA. And you're correct, but LA to London, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like to go play, like that gets a little too far. But hey, if you can have divisions, and then maybe down the line we could do, maybe way down the
Hmm.
line when we're old men and we're doing this, still, and we're still invoking the Kool-Aid man. Maybe we'll have some form of Champions League, true kind of world
Sure.
championship or something like that. That'd be a lot of fun.
So, yeah, I mean, I would volunteer the Celtics and the Knicks to go play in London. That's that's fine.
Yeah, you would.
But
Sure.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see that
A
being
game.
something. Well, and
Yeah.
that's I mean, like the NFL goes over there. They have a few
Mhm.
games happening. What is it? I think the
Yeah.
Packers and the Saints are going to play over there this year. There's another game
Yeah,
too.
there's games,
There's a
and
couple of
there's a game
games.
in Germany. I think they
Yeah.
just announced too this year. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff with the NFL. Everybody's getting back into that. And the NBA had announced they were looking to play in preseason games, and I think it was in Dubai.
Oh yeah.
They'd announced some preseason games that were going to come. We know they played in both China and Japan in the past. Australia has really pushed hard. They'd
Yes.
love to get games there. That they obviously love basketball there as well. So yeah, I think all around this is good stuff. It's just to go play a game like one or two games preseason, especially not a big deal. NFL also not a huge deal because you're there, you go for the week,
You
kind of do
play
your
one
thing,
game
and
a
then you come
week.
back. They always give a week
Right.
after off. The NBA, it's a little harder. I mean, we saw the last international game pre-COVID was in France, if I remember correctly. Charlotte played, I want to say it was maybe Indiana, and they both had like 4 days off leading up to it, and then I think it was 4 days off on the back end as well. So that's hard to just fit into an
Mhm.
NBA schedule for a
Some
game.
challenges for sure.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving wondered during the season whether the Nets would trade him or release him. That's something that was on his mind. There was a lot of talk about that too. A lot of
Yeah.
people were kind of saying, would the Nets be better off just kind of moving on from Kyrie? See if you could trade him to a team where he can play home games. Is that something they should have done? Or do you just
Mhm.
release him if you say, you know what, you're not helping the team, so see you later? Um, Interesting that Kyrie had considered that as well.
Yeah, I think the podcast is called "Et Ceteras" with Kevin Durant. Kyrie was on there, and he opened up about a lot of stuff, and I thought that was an interesting look into it because there's this sense with Kyrie that he's this guy who just doesn't care
Uh-huh.
about things, and clearly he does. I think there are things he very much cares about and is very passionate about, and I think it was an interesting insight into him basically saying like I didn't even know if I was still going to be on this team or not, and then he also mentioned hey, I never felt like myself because normally I'm building on things as the year goes,
Hmm.
and I was playing catch up with everybody, all season long. So, and I don't know that he's looking for anyone to feel bad for him or sympathetic or anything like that, but I mean, it's just good on him for being open and honest about where he's feeling.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right. We do have, looks like we've got one more topic here, and that is Travis Schlenk says the Hawks are going to try to upgrade their roster. Felt that maybe they, running things back last year was not the correct decision. So that means the Hawks add them to the list of teams that'll be pretty active this summer in looking to make some changes. I think this was a disappointing season for Atlanta and
Mm-hmm.
one that they don't want to repeat. So I do think change is coming. Exactly what that's going to look like, I'm not sure. We've talked about the value of wings around the NBA, and the Hawks certainly have some of those that they could part ways with. But will be interesting to see ultimately who they go after and what they're able to accomplish. But looks like they're going to be a mover and shaker this summer.
Yeah, after spending a ton of money in the offseason of
Mm-hmm.
2020, 2021 offseason, the Hawks added basically Gorgie Jang, DeLon Wright, and then Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot made it out of training camp onto the roster. They drafted Jalen Johnson, and then in season they traded Cam Reddish for Kevin Knox, and that was it. They basically stuck with grouping that took them to the East Finals the year before. Now, that sounds good until they weren't very good this year. And that's
Right.
kind of the classic, our now what you have to figure out is what year was real, right? Was it the East Finals run? Was that more real? Or was it this past year? They've got a lot of money committed moving forward over at least the next couple of seasons. You've got
Mm-hmm.
Bogdanovich, Capella, Collins, Kevin Herter, and Trey Young are all signed long term. And then you've got DeAndre Hunter with one more year. Danilo Gallinari, he's got a partially guaranteed contract. Something's going to have to give there because I don't know how you can bring him back at $5 million. Because with Trey Young's extension kicking in, they're $14 million over the luxury
Oh.
tax going into next season. And that's with a handful of roster spots to fill too. So some work to be done for sure for Travis Schlenk and that Hawks roster.
And I think, and we've been talking about this, and this was the case. It was the case last summer as well. We're going to see, I think, a lot of trade activity this summer, and part of that is
Yeah.
just the free agent class is
Agreed.
not. It's not that deep. There's not that much out there. If you look at, it's funny if you look at the lists, and I love Spot Track for this because you look at free agency and you go, oh, there's some DeAndre Ayton, man. Okay, there's some names out there. Oh wait, click that little box. Let me remove all the
Yep.
restricted guys. Oh, now I see what's
Yep.
really out there. And that's when you know that, yeah, there's not much out there on the market. So for a team like the Hawks, any other team that's looking to make big moves, you're going to have to do it on the trade market, which means I think we're going to get a lot going on pre-draft. That's when the trade market tends to really heat up. And then we'll get
Yep.
that happening all the way through probably mid-July. I think it's going to be a really exciting time in the NBA. We're going to see a lot of action going on, which is my long-winded way of saying subscribe to the NBA front office show. Subscribe to our
Well done.
YouTube channel as well as the Apple Podcast feed as well. Spotify, if that's where you listen to your podcast, and give us
Yeah.
that rating and review. We sure do appreciate it.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I'll add to that too. There's teams holding multiple draft picks in this draft that might want to move up, down, out entirely. I think we're going to see a lot of movement at the draft, pending the lottery results, which is now only a couple weeks away. We're going to get the draft lottery, so that'll be a lot of fun too to be monitoring and watching with that. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be an awesome off season, so stick with us and we're going to cover it all. But tonight, playback.
That's right.
You can find the link in the video description. We're going to be covering the Suns Mavericks game 2 of their series, but it'll be more than just Suns Mavericks because when we go into commercials and halftime and all that, we go into question and answer mode. We'll do some questions throughout the game as well. And we're really kind of anything. So we have a lot of fun with that. So by all means, hopefully you guys will check us out over on Playback tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern for Suns Mavericks game 2.
That's right. And find the link in the description below over on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast version of this, well, go check out our YouTube channel. We'll put it on our social media feeds on Twitter as well, so you can find the link there and come join us tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, everybody, that does it for today. Appreciate everyone for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe, again, right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications. Until next time, everybody, we'll see ya. Well, we'll see you tonight, hopefully, and stay safe.